and welcome to our second panel of distinguished speakers and our moderator. This is actually a very interesting panel on enterprise AR work instructions. And your moderator for this session is Alex Goldberg. We joked about him being born in a town one over from me, Barton Goldenberg. But anyhow, he's the administrator of XR Technologies in Blue Origin's Engineering and Program Management and System Design Department. He serves Blue Origin as a subject matter expert on spatial computing with a deep focus on both augmented and mixed reality. He works with teams across the organization that enable Blue Origin to move more effectively in the design and manufacturing of space vehicles. How cool is that? And Alex will now introduce his panelists, and best of luck.
Thanks, Barton. Maybe while I'm here, okay, good. Great, cool, everybody can hear me, okay. It's great to be back at AWE. Thanks for putting together another great conference, Ori, Sonia, Nathan, Karen, and everybody else whose name I'm not remembering right now. It's my 5th year presenting here. I'm glad that they invited me back. I guess that's a good sign. Drove down here from Seattle. When I do these conferences, it's been the start of an adventure every year the past few times, and I had a nice romantic drive by myself from Seattle, and I'm going to be heading to our launch site in the West Texas desert next, where I get to play around with rocket engines, and then off to our Denver office, where I'm going to work on site and do some bike riding up there in the Rockies. Maybe I'll hang out with you too, Shelley. You know, when I do these talks, I haven't really touched on all the amazing stuff we're up to in XR at Blue Origin, so I just want to quickly touch on that. That'll give you a little bit of a background for me as a consumer of what these fine enterprise AR instruction and purveyors provide, if that made sense. And Erika is also in a similar role to me, operating out of Montreal. So let's jump into it a little bit about what we're up to at Blue. So, you know, we have a very advanced spatial computing organization. In fact, I can't think of another aerospace company that has so many things going on that are a combination of mature technologies and internal R&D at the rate that we have at Blue. It is very impressive. We have virtual reality AR and what we call reality capture, which is essentially scans of buildings that turn to digital twins that we throttle our VR and AR experiences with, as well as having standalone reality capture digital twins that enable people to jump into spaces and explore all of our facilities at Blue. On the virtual reality front, we do design reviews, simulations, and network sessions. So we could conduct a design review in Kent and have participants in Huntsville, Denver, Orlando, and we can also stream that over Teams. So you could have hundreds of people observing the design review, as well as going to the archive of video files of those down the road and taking that information in. There's a lot to be learned from reviewing the design reviews. In fact, the New Glenn program manager recently said that we couldn't move at the rate that we do if it wasn't for the XR team and our virtual reality design reviews. It's really impressive. We also have a full-fledged AR department with tools to help people complete their tasks and work instructions, like what we're going to be talking about today. A means to add to the space. So if you walk into our lunar module, you can see AR components that are regularly being updated for those kinds of reviews, as well as remote assistance. So the ability to bring in a subject matter expert off-site is incredibly powerful, and also the ability to record those and share that information, similar to the design reviews that I was talking about a second ago. A little bit about my role specific. I lead augmented reality for manufacturing in Kent, and I support teams I could be found supporting teams building our landers one day or being out in the desert with our engine test teams the other. It's very exciting. I feel incredibly fortunate to be a part of this team. So, and my manager happens to be in the audience, Ivan, who created and built this team. So thank you, Ivan, for setting things up at Blue the way that you have. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic to, we're going to start with Sven. You're going to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go through everybody, and then we'll jump into the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Sven. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sphere, and I got pretty jealous when Alex just told all the cool things he can do at Blue. I'm also a huge space fan, but I'm here as the CEO of Sphere, and we're a spatial collaboration company that also is geared towards the enterprise, and we're going to talk about that more. I'm Swiss originally, now live in the US, and very happy to be here, and thanks again for the invitation.
Hello, I guess I'm next. Thank you very much, Alex, for inviting us to this panel. My name is Alex Berlin. I'm co-founder of Arvisio. Arvisio is a Canadian company based in Ottawa, Canada. We've been building spatial computing, augmented reality, mixed reality applications for a number of years, starting way back from Microsoft HoloLens partnerships, like most people in this room, and evolving to new devices and new technologies over time. We 100% focused on enterprise space. We built a software platform that delivers content creation capabilities for digital instructions, utilizing capabilities internally, including digital twins, animation, ability to do work without a necessity to write any single line of code for end users. I'm excited to be here. Would be more than happy to talk after this session if you have any interest, but we're here to really discuss what's happening in the space and share our opinions. So thank you so much for inviting me, and thanks everybody for joining this session.
Hi, my name is Erika, Cion. I work at Lockheed Martin. Specifically, I work at one of our smaller sites in Montreal where we do something a little bit different than the rest of Lockheed Martin does. We work on the maintenance, repair, and overhaul of commercial aircraft engines. So my site is about 400 people. And leading up to like the last few years, I was actually one of the power plant engineers that worked on the engines. And more recently, I'm responsible for leading innovation in digital technologies in our site. So over the last 6 months, we've had a pretty rapid deployment of AR, issuing work instructions to our technicians, and we've had a lot of success. And so, yeah, I'm here to speak about that.
Thank you. My name's David Nedohin. I'm one of the co-founders at Scope AR, and I've had the unique and distinct pleasure over the last 10 or 12 years of working with some incredible enterprise customers. Many are here today and even on this panel, so thank you for inviting me to be part of this. And I love when Erika says that she's like part of one of the smaller parts of Lockheed. I know it is, but it's the coolest thing when you go into their shop floors and see all the amazing things that they're doing with augmented reality and real use cases in production. And so I know it may be small Lockheed terms, but I mean, for me to go in there and see those is pretty amazing. Yeah, thank you for having me as part of the panel, Alex.
All right, I think we're going to first jump off with some of the hurdles with rolling out these kinds of technologies. They're both tablet and head-worn. You have individuals that have never used a AR solution before, and you have people super eager to that perhaps they'll fall in love with it and be distracted with the technology. There's lots of different ways that you can, things could go in many different directions when trying to deploy this. I was thinking there's, kind of 3 different approaches for rolling out AR work instructions. You kind of have your centralized creation approach where like an XR team would be authoring the instructions and then sort of throwing that over the fence to work with the operators on the floor. Then you also have an approach where you select people that are more inclined to adopt this and you sort of handpick them from each of the teams that you'll be eventually supporting, and then bring them in as some kind of working group and use them as the people to author the instructions for their team. And then there's the specter of everyone authors. The enterprise AR work instructions are so intuitive and so easy to execute that any operator on the floor can author the instructions that are specific. So those are kind of the three flows that are, I think, within reach. Maybe these guys will talk about the two other things that I'm going to mention right now, and we could discuss where we're at, and that is the ability to have a manufacturing execution system, have it in a format where the XR instructions can be ingested directly from that. So the manufacturing organizations have thousands of steps already in their MESs. So could you just plug in the enterprise work instructions and be able to go, as well as authoring with AI? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on approaches for rollout, and if there's anything I missed in those bullets, it'd be great to touch on. Who wants to go first?
I can take a crack at it since,
All right, Erika.
since I've been doing that recently. The one big thing that we've learned is that obviously to bring new technology to a site, you have to build a lot of support. And that support comes from both sides, right? Whether it be management or your technicians on the shop floor. But then the problem is that once you have that support, you really need to be able to deploy quickly, because that excitement doesn't last forever, and it quickly becomes one of those solutions where, hey, like you guys talked about this and I never saw the solution come out. So the way that we chose to deploy was we actually worked with our provider, so Scope in this case, to author those instructions right away. So we worked hand in hand with them. I think that's one big thing, that whoever you're going with for your AR solution, you need to make sure that they are able to support you in whatever your business needs are. That way you have the most successful deployment that you could possibly have. But essentially, we had them issue our work instructions in collaboration with us, and that way we were able to deploy our full solution within 6 months. And we didn't lose that momentum, and that meant that we actually got funding for the next phases of our project by showing that quick success rate.
Bootstrapping in that approach is key. It's really how you bring the ball down the field and get leadership on board. Really impressive, Erika. Great job.
Yeah, if I can add on to that. So, I mean, and I think it really comes down to, you know, moving from the art of what's possible to the art of what's practical and scalable and measurable. And so in this specific case, they were looking for somebody to create content, and not just one piece of content, because when you put that out there, then people are like, great, what's next? Right? So how do you make that scalable and not just like a sort of a one-off solution? So there's got to be a strategy to that. And it doesn't have to be everything, but I mean, there's multiple ways to do that, as I'm sure the other, panelists would agree. Like in some cases, we have customers who might decide they want to do it themselves. Maybe they're in an air-gapped environment, or they're completely on an on-prem where we can't see anything, versus other customers who actually have resources who want to do that. They might work with our team to learn that and be scalable and be able to create content that's going to be quality, or to this spectrum where it's like, hey, you guys just do it first. So I think you need to be able to listen to what the customer is saying in terms of the strategy, to how do you actually put this into a place where it can be scalable and practical and measurable.
And I think you mentioned a very important aspect is existing work instructions, right? That's something we really see, especially when it comes to like production deployments, larger deployments, right? That's some of the key issue. Like initially, people are very eager to try and to jump in, and you create an initial experience, and then it's like, okay, now how do we bring our tens of thousands of instructions in? And what we've seen working really well is basically having this initial layer, right? The initial authoring that maybe happens even outside of XR, stay in that tool, and we make it really, really easy to import that into XR and then enrich it, right? In a sense that, let's say, and that's even to do, you can do it on headset, right? Really the spatial nature of these SOPs, workflows, work instructions, you annotate them basically, or author them on device, on a headset or a tablet, but basically leverage the underlying system that stores these SOPs or work instructions to have still that ground level of truth and just have a very tight integration into that. That's something we've seen successful, especially for larger deployments, for production deployments. I think that's also a bit a different approach, which is also interesting, which we can also debate. You know, how much do you do new authoring in XR versus how much do you leverage what's already existing there? maybe I don't know what your approach to that is.
Yeah, I just want to dovetail a little bit into this. It's one of the most important topics, right? So thank you, Erika, for sharing your experience. And obviously, Scope AR done a lot of work with clients like Erika. One thing that we see from our customers definitely is this need for initial support, initial training. However, there are a lot of customers, especially these days, that want to make sure they can have complete control over creation of the content and deployment going forward. So they may start with you and ask you to help with the first like 1 or 2 workflows, but they really want to be able to handle this hundreds of thousands of workflows. And the topic of integration that you mentioned, Alex, with manufacturing information system, we done it with some customers where they asked us to integrate using our APIs with their backend to be able to take the existing instructions, if they have them, and they had them, and automatically process and use also some generative AI to create templates. And these templates would be easy to modify, and I call it ARIze, right? Where you add spatial awareness to this using, like Sven mentioned, headsets in many cases, or even mobile devices as well. Because there is a trick, how do you make it happen with existing hardware? Right, not just fancy headsets. How do we make it happen with iPads and other devices like this?
Right, it doesn't need to be fancy hardware. Erika in Montreal is using just tablets at Lockheed, and she has a very successful program going.
Yeah, I mean, like at my site, we like to joke that we're stuck in the 90s. So I thought, like, if I brought in the headsets right off the bat, people might be a little bit shell-shocked, and I thought the iPads were a really good first step. But the one thing I do want to touch on, though, is like developing that in-house capability is extremely important. It's just, I was thinking for initial deployment, it's really good to get that workforce out there, get the instructions out there. And then from there, the interesting thing is that even though we're a small site, we're able to actually parent back off of the bigger company, off of Lockheed Martin, and work with other divisions of Lockheed Martin that have in-house capability. So we actually have Shelley in the audience, and she was very responsible for setting up our in-house capability within space. And they're great with the product, and not only that, but they're more than happy to help us with all of our help, with all of our needs and that kind of thing. But definitely for sustainment, you need that in-house capability.
Erika is referring to Shelley Peterson, by the way, who's a legend in the space.
Hall of
She has a
Famer.
star out in front. Is there a round of applause happening here? Okay. I remember when I saw Shelley speak first. It was 2019, I think the VRX conference, which was a conference series done by Reuters. And I was so blown away. And I remember being incredibly nervous trying to talk to her after the conference. And then we got to work together when she was at Microsoft. And now she's a friend. See how that happens? So we started to drift towards tablet versus head-worn display. I think there's something we could linger on there. Enterprise AR work instruction providers, why don't we go down the line and talk about some of your pros and cons of deploying head-worn displays versus tablet?
Want to start?
Sure.
Sven?
Let's go for it.
Well, I mean, the obvious one is like you're always in a headset, you're hands-free. That's the very obvious one, and it's an important one, right? For a lot of tasks, this gives you a lot of more flexibility, right? Especially if you have to have a tool or anything else in your hands. And even if you don't, it's much more convenient, obviously, than to have like a tablet or a smartphone in your hands. That's definitely the big pro, right? I'm a big believer in headsets. That's, for me, definitely the future of this space. I think that's also the most immersive, the best experience you can get. Having said that, obviously the big con is, or the pro of like tablets and smartphones, exactly what Erika mentioned, right? First of all, it's mostly already there, right? It's deployed, people have it, and I think that everyone can echo that as a software provider. That makes it easier, right? If you have to basically also sell the hardware in a way, even if you don't profit from it, it's just customer needs more budget, right? So it's much easier, and everyone understands it, right? It's something, it's much, the hurdle is less to use a tablet or a smartphone that you anyways use every day, and you add AR to it. So I would say that's, for me, in a nutshell, the big two differentiators. I would still say the future is head-worn. I'm a big believer in that. But as Alex mentioned before, I think you need to have both at the moment to, because we see almost for every customer a mix of both. Because there's good reasons for both, especially in the next few years while we all race towards even lighter headsets, even better headsets, right? Which I'm 100% sure that will all happen. But to bridge that gap, I think tablets and smartphones definitely have their place.
I cannot disagree.
Ooh, exciting, people.
We definitely need, as software providers, to provide this flexibility to customers to use whatever device they want. And headsets, I am a believer. I started my journey in mixed reality space with the first HoloLens, right? So, and it's a fascinating space, and we see innovation every day being pushed by, you know, our friends like Qualcomm enabling a lot of new technologies and new glasses, and I'm a big believer. The question whether we can get to deployable solution with the current generation of glasses, and obviously HoloLens 2 was widely deployed, but now we are talking about what's next. What next device is coming, and a lot of interest, and maybe I'm going into another topic, a lot of interest in headsets started to support video pass-through and mixed reality type of modes, and maybe there is a good future in that direction as well. But all in all, I agree with Sven, we need both headsets and powerful mobile technology enabled by ARKit and ARCore, and just name it.
Yeah, as somebody who, you know, our company actually built a headset way back in 2011, should probably be in the museum. Scott put that together. He was also a Hall of Famer and going to be recognized later too. You know, obviously we believe in headsets, but I think the question for me is more around the use cases, and really the content, it translates from like the entire journey of what you're going to use that for. So when a customer says, hey, we're looking at, you know, training, it's like, great, but when you create that content for training, you're also going to be able to use it in maybe a different mode on the shop floor for manufacturing, and you're going to be able to use that same content for maybe quality assurance, and then you're going to be able to use that same content for MRO activities and for repair, and it just continues on. So, I mean, I think it's more about the use case and thinking about that content and those work instructions in the journey of that deployment and execution of it and where it can add value. And based on that, you're going to say, hey, this worker is probably better off picking up their phone. Or maybe there's a program in place that says, you know, and we have some friends here who put that program together about like, if you're going to use a HoloLens, here's how you put it on, here's how you manage the user interface, here's how you clean it, here's how you store it, here's how you charge it. Like those things have to be in place for those use cases. So to me, it's like we all know wearables are going to get there and they're going to be used more and more, but it still comes down to what the use case is and how do you leverage that content in different use cases across kind of that entire journey of it. So that's how I think about it.
I guess like the way that I see it, and I'm kind of building off of what you're saying, David, though, is like, as somebody who used to work with the technicians day in and day out, I have to put myself in their shoes and see what their journey is going to be like. I have to sit there and say, okay, well, if they have to go to a computer and they have to go to a piece of paper and then they also have to go sit there and put on a headset, they're not inclined to go and put on a headset in my use case. So it's really about looking at the situation and saying, well, in what world am I creating the best success rate for my product? And for me personally, but it's just where I'm at with my facility, the headset, it would just be an extra step for them to do, and it was less likely that they would have adopted it. And I'm trying to bring in the best case for success. But my plan is, first phase, iPads, second phase, let's try to bring a few headsets onto the shop floor and see who's adopting it, what the feedback is, and then go from there. But what I'd really like to see, though, and I think kind of we're seeing it with the Apple Vision Pro, is that people bringing in more functionality with these headsets, because if it's only one use case, it's expensive for an enterprise to be able to invest in that kind of hardware.
I have a few comments on this. Great feedback, everybody. I dig your incremental, with the North Star being head-worn display and incrementally getting there, starting with tablets, Erika. I think it's, one of the things that seemed like everybody circled back to was it's the best tool to get the job done. I like to think of using tablets as a way to complement head-worn display. Perhaps a user goes through a session with the AR headset, and then somebody else later uses a tablet to do some kind of visual inspection against it. I think those kinds of workflows could be really powerful, perhaps even using AI to cross-train and use those to sharpen the way that we could implement things like auto-authoring. So we're drifting towards AI. Some of our vendors have AI incorporated into their platforms. I'm familiar with all of your solutions. Maybe we could talk about Copilot assistance and the prospect there, and how that rollout is going, and where you guys want to go with those kinds of features. Sven?
Yeah, that sounds good. We actually we're going to announce something soon in that space, but we're not quite ready yet. But I'll talk a bit about in principle how we kind of see AI and especially when it comes to work instructions and our solution. I think interesting, or I'm a big believer that XR in general as a technology or XR and AI is really a match made in heaven. I think most of you probably agree here that XR is one of the best vessels for AI to leverage that. I think we've also seen some failed examples in the last few months, like the Humane Pin and these products were very underwhelmingly reviewed. I think they're also trying to sell now. But I believe actually XR has really the potential to really be really the perfect way to experience and interact with AI now in general. Now, when it comes to work instructions and XR and these Copilot applications that Alex mentioned, I think they really have the potential to 10x the productivity, right? And I think that's the exciting piece. So many things that I see in AI at the moment is people are, we have this AI, they're trying to find use cases for the AI, right? And I think the much better approach is we have existing use cases, we know where the customer pain is, and we can leverage AI to really, again, make the customer 10x or 10 times more productive, right? Or help them to solve the problem 10 times faster. And I really see that's where these AI copilots, the support can really shine. I mean, you mentioned one aspect is obviously conversion, right? Content conversion, but there's so much more. Also live knowledge retrieval. Obviously you can pair it with computer vision, and that's I think then gets really powerful, right? Interacting with an XR headset is much more natural with gestures, voice, and so on. These copilots ultimately can even provide spatial feedback, right? It's not something you can do on a computer in a chat window. And I think it was actually interesting. A couple of months ago, on The Verge was an article published about AI and chatbots, and the tagline was something along the lines of AI is the right idea, but chatbots are the wrong approach. And I think that sums it up really nicely. And I think the right approach or the right medium to consume and interact with AI, or the best one, especially in the enterprise, is XR, in our opinion.
I'll share my thoughts. Obviously, AI is very exciting, and for anybody who is a technologist at heart, it is exciting to use. But I would like to talk about use cases that are relevant to XR, to our space, and specifically in instructional space, whether it's for operations or for training. What we see definitely tremendous interest in incorporating generative AI, like copilots that help you to solve the problem of content creation or make it much more easier to create content and automate content creation with the help of Copilot or co-assist type of capabilities. And there are multiple technologies. We've been investigating and researching the space for more than a year, and we selected best possible solutions in our minds that would work not just for let's say public cloud deployment, but also for private type of deployments in terms of technology. This is one aspect. The second interesting aspect, Sven mentioned computer vision and cognitive AI capabilities. So we have a pilot available to use cognitive AI and computer vision as part of your training or instructional process where you can validate the result, detect anomalies, detect problems, detect defects if the outcome is not right. So you use cognitive AI in this case as a front end in conjunction with XR or AR user interface. Like Sven mentioned, AR is a very good user interface. And AI becomes a brain power and the power that enables actual use case creation.
You know, it's interesting what you said, Alex. You said everyone's excited about AI. But I'll tell you the one group of people that are not excited about AI, and it's the unionized workforce. Everyone hears AI and they think that's going to remove my job. I'm no longer going to be necessary here. And people are so nervous. That's the first thing they think of. And that's what I think it's interesting when we're talking about AI and work instructions, because the implication of the two working together is that you still need a human there to follow the work instructions. And the purpose of the AI in that point is to capture quality issues, right? That's how I see it. The other point, though, is that I work at least in a highly regulated industry. So we have to abide by FAA, YASA, Transport Canada, and they have their own views on AI. I think they even have like a lot of task force at this point working towards understanding AI and what that means as far as regulations go. So the way that I see it, at least, if we're going to start bridging the gap, is using it as a means of verifying the work that was done and ensuring that it was done properly. But it's not actually doing the work themselves. Yep. And yeah, I think that was it. Sorry, my brain kept going, but.
There's lots going on there. But, yeah. You know, and that's actually what I was going to add on to, too. I think you guys articulated very well how AI is going to help support content creation. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of work instructions that these organizations have. How are you actually going to put that into a format that you can use, you know, in AR and make that scalable? That's obviously those are things that we're going to see solved through AI. But really, I mean, for me, if I'm looking at it from the perspective of these organizations, and you know what you're dealing with, and everybody's dealing with the same challenge, which is how are you going to attract the skilled labor to your organization? And you're going to do that through leveraging technologies and making sure that a worker knows that, hey, I'm coming to work for you because you're using some really great technologies like XR. You're going to use or you're going to implement technologies like AI to help me validate that I've done my work correctly. So that gives me confidence to know that I can do more things in my daily activities than just the very one thing I was trained at 5 years ago, and I can prove that I've done it right because these technologies are going to help ensure that not only I do it right, but I can demonstrate that later. So I think it's more about supporting the workers and addressing that skills gap that's occurring by leveraging these technologies than just from a technology standpoint. Yeah, we're all excited about it, but what does that mean to the worker?
Actually, quickly have a question for you, Alex and Erika, which is always really interesting for us to understand as an ISV. What's the level of quality you would expect for it to say, okay, we can use it productively? Because that's always super interesting to find this, okay, you know, we talk a lot about MVPs, like pilots and so on, but what is really the bar that you would expect, let's say when AI work instruction, let's say this quality control, that you would actually adopt it and use it? Does it need to be 100% reliable in every single case? That's the bar. Because we had this topic a bit with like QR codes versus object detection, right? A lot of our customers opted for a QR code because they work 100% of the time. Even though it's less fancy, that's what they wanted, right? So maybe that's also interesting also for me to educate. How do you view this also with AI now?
Personally, I echo your feedback on QR versus area targets, model targets, that kind of object detection. But the technology is getting there. And I want to say thanks to all of you out there here in the audience and watching this later. You know, collectively, we're improving these technologies, enabling us to execute these solutions. But I'm a little bit more in the image marker camp. Erika, you were about to say something a second ago, I feel like.
Are you specifically talking about AI or XR?
AI, like in combination with like the let's say the use case we just mentioned, right? Quality aspect, or making sure you did this step correctly, right? Is it good enough? If it works in 95% of the times.
So I would never want it to be my primary workforce, if that makes sense. I would kind of want it to be a second set of eyes. Yeah, and in all honesty, I believe the technology is really already out there. It's just a matter of bridging the gap and marrying the two, AI and XR, together. I think it's already out there. I've seen it as far as AI goes. So it just makes sense.
So I don't know if you guys know, David's actually a champion. What is that
Curler.
curling?
How is this getting?
David
Like we
could walk
randomly
into-
changed topics here. We're done with XR.
The rest of David's life, you could go into any bar in Canada and he gets free beer. So, in addition to that, this guy is so multi-talented. He's actually a champion water ski instructor too, and he's a barefoot champion water skier. Is it still called water skiing if you're barefoot?
Well, that would be called barefoot water skiing, yeah.
Where I'm going with this is when David was instructing people in water skiing, he would tell them to either lower their knees or move their butt.
Yeah, I mean,
please?
all of it, all the instructions we provide, I guess, are focused on how somebody receives those instructions. And so I think where you're going with this is AI can help basically train to understand how somebody's going to best receive those instructions. And it could actually deliver them potentially in different ways, the same set of instructions, to two different workers based on their learning patterns. And so we were talking, I think, a while back, just as an example, when I was teaching somebody at the ski school, we were doing some training in barefoot water skiing, and they had to bend their knees more. And so like two of the kids would go out there and I'd say like, bend your knees, and they would bend their knees. The third kid couldn't do it. He couldn't understand. So I ended up changing it and saying, lower your butt. And he's like, oh, okay, and he lowered his butt, which is the same as bending your knees. So it's just delivering the same message in a different way, and people hear things differently. So there's an example of where I think AI can learn and adapt to people's learning habits and being able to adjust those instructions accordingly so that they get the best information possible to them at the time.
You forgot to mention that David guest starred on Corner Gas for 2 episodes as a celebrity appearance.
So guys, I'm the only American on this panel. That's some kind of Canadian TV show. I'm not too sure about it. Sven, Alex, have you guys ever heard of it?
It's a popular show.
Oh, okay.
Alex,
I don't know. Never heard.
Well, we could add that to David's amazing list of talents. Very cool. So, you know, we were gesturing earlier towards, or I gestured earlier towards sharpening the game of, or sharpening the performance of the way that you're building your AR work instructions predicated on the data that is gathered from the operator's performance. And then we circled back to that just now. So, yeah, I'm super excited about the possibility of adaptive learning, as well as training an AI on what is besides what is the easiest way for a specific individual to be instructed, the best way to change and adapt the program for areas that are being missed. So when that visual inspection happens at the end, where do we highlight going back in the other direction next time around so that miss doesn't happen? So I think these are all very exciting opportunities. I'm ready to shift to the next topic, but I did mention some stuff that might have stimulated something. Are you guys ready to go? Okay. All right. I want to talk about collaboration. So the ability to bring multiple people into a scene and build the scene collaboratively, as well as perform the instruction set that could be synchronous, or perhaps ways that you do baton passes from steps, and some of the forethought that you guys have on that topic. Let's start on that end this time. Back to you, David.
Did you want to start?
No,
Sven?
go ahead.
I mean, there's a lot of different use cases, obviously, for collaboration, whether it's, remote assistance, whether it's design engineering. I think it really comes back down to what is the challenge that you're trying to solve. So is it geography? Is it that the experts are located at different spots, that you want to have them sharing an environment at the same time? And I think that's why we have so many different, great vendors and great suppliers and technologists that are here, supporting this industry and building different things, because over time we're going to have just a myriad of different solutions that are going to support all those use cases, that you're seeing. So I think it's a really important or a great conversation, and something that we're going to, I think as a group, try and understand where that value directly comes from. So I'm sure some of you are seeing that right now, but welcome to add additional thoughts.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we really see that as the core of our solution, even like the multi-user collaboration. That's at the heart. But I fully agree with David that it really depends on the use case, what you're focusing on, your product, your company, right? What problem you're trying to solve for your customer. Where we sit, it's really, for us, this is the key, almost like the key, or not a USP, but like the key offering for us, or the fundamental guideline for our product is everything we do is always multi-user. Everything is always in real time synchronized, both like in a hybrid setting. So if we would wear a headset in our solution, we would be connected in the same space, but also people remotely. We also have an avatar system. I know you guys have a similar system, but for us this is really the key. And then we build everything on top, right? So for example, like work instructions, that's then like a special case of the spatial collaboration. You can do it with multiple people at the same time, right? That's very useful, for example, for training scenarios, right? You have an instructor, 4 or 5 people need to go through the same set of instructions, and you can even have people remotely, right? They can be wherever in the world participate in that. So these are really the cases we're focusing on, where also collaboration and multi-user experiences are absolutely key and important. So that's really a key part, how we also see the industry moving forward, to have this connectivity, because also maybe we've all seen this experience when someone puts a headset on and you don't see what they're seeing, right? Immediately it's like, what do you see? I don't see it. And it's kind of a bit awkward, and you get isolated very quickly, and that shouldn't be like XR should be connecting people, not isolating them. So having the ability to be in the same session together for us is absolutely a key part of an XR experience.
Yeah. I agree with David. It's very much about the use case that enterprise is trying to solve. So collaboration, XR collaboration or mixed reality collaboration is something that was absolutely critical piece of the puzzle when HoloLens journey started. I remember myself and actually David 6 years ago at Microsoft in Toronto, doing like collaboration design sessions with people sharing content. So I'm a little bit on the page that, yes, from technology perspective, if you talk about use case, design review, collaborative interactivity with, let's say, digital twins, where you create new content and it's like real-time interaction, it's absolutely critical. Is it powerful? Absolutely powerful technology. When it comes to instructions deployment in operating environment, where you're trying to achieve certain objectives, in some cases, people ask for this. In many cases, they don't. You can use different approaches like instructor-led sessions using remote collaboration capabilities with people being remotely, absolutely. But bottom line, technology-wise, fully agree with Sven. It's a powerful capability, especially with headsets, right? When it comes to tablets, doesn't make too much sense to me, to be honest. I've done it. Right, we have people with tablets looking at the same stuff. Anchoring works, spatial works, but it needs to be headset-centric. So when it comes to instructions, I'm a little bit more on the page. I want to understand why would people want to use on the floor, let's say, shared digital twins experience, right? So. But collaboration always excites people.
What do you think, Alex?
So, most of the AR work instruction suites of services also have a remote assist solution bundled in. I often consider the ability to flip a switch and start broadcasting the real-time AR instruction that the operator is actually executing. I have a project going on currently where the lead stakeholder was wondering if we could constantly record everything so they could audit it at a later date. So I sort of view leveraging the remote assist, the ability to jump in and stream that, as ability to record off deck if you had that stream going to a box somewhere, so you didn't have to do that locally using an OEM recording service, as well as if you weren't recording to that box that you were streaming that data, you could, in theory, just tune in and watch it or jump into what the user, where the user is at. Have you guys considered such options?
You know what's interesting? I don't know if I fully grasp what you were going on, but the one thing that I did want to comment on is you talked about data collection based off of XR. And I think that's one thing that people don't really highlight enough when they talk about XR for enterprise is that data collection aspect. People are always looking for ways to make their company more efficient, right? And not only that, but once you're introducing an XR solution, you need to be able to show your ROI based off of that solution that you've introduced. The data collection that you get with XR is unlike anything that you could probably get with any other field that you're using. When you're using an ERP, people are clocking in, they're walking to the bathroom, they go chit-chat, they do whatever. But when you're looking at that XR application of it, you're getting real-time data of how long people are spending on each task. That data, you can use it in so many different ways, and then not only that, but you pair it with the AI to be able to interpret the data, do data collection, run that data through. That's the next step in my opinion, like pair it with AI, but then also that data collection aspect of it is really how you're gonna take your business to the next level. And people don't realize that XR is really a good vessel to do that. I think we need to highlight a bit more of that, to be honest.
Agreed on the data collection front. I mean, we could see where people are gazing. We could start heat mapping that, and we can adjust the instruction set accordingly. Where I was going earlier, and I might have not articulated that perfectly, since many of these platforms have remote assist services, instead of recording what the user is doing locally on the device, could you leverage the remote assist-like service to stream their work instruction that they are currently going?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I fully support your idea. It's practical. Some people use it. They use remote assist, especially with one-to-N, right, where you can have multiple experts or students, if you wish, located globally, and then you can stream experience in real time, and you can record it and analyze and use it for a variety of use cases. If you have to debug the problem with multiple experts at the same time, it is a collaborative session. I was referring more to Sven's comment about mixed reality collaboration kind of in the same space and remote participants with avatars. This is different. This is leverage and see what I see AR capability with multiple experts or multiple recipients being streamed to.
And tying into what I think both you and Erika said, though, is if you're doing a set of work instructions and whatever is on the shop floor, you run into a problem, you could join in an expert who's somewhere else. The reality is that's the whole point of this, is that you don't need to have experts looking over the shoulders of everybody that's going to be doing something. Then you can make an adjustment to those instructions based on the data that's collected, right? If somebody's stuck on a certain step, it should take them only 5 minutes, it took them 20 minutes, then you had to call in an expert. How do you quickly manipulate those instructions, change them, put them back out, make sure you've got version and control all there so everything's accurate, everybody knows they have best practices, and then continue on and build efficiency through that. So through that collaboration and the work instructions, you're leveraging your expertise no matter where they are.
So we're close to time. We're going to be approaching 5 minutes left. Before we go to Q&A, do you guys have any other closing comments regarding some of the things that we touched on?
No, I guess I'm just excited to see what industry comes out with in terms of bringing AI to XR, and not only that, but data collection and visualization to the enterprises.
So the reason why why I was asking that question, and I love your response. I view what heavy industry is doing with enterprise XR as the building block for work instructions for everybody. The deep pockets of companies like Blue Origin, Jeff, your pockets are kind of deep, it's kind of obvious. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, et cetera, is that they enable this research and these companies to provide solutions. These are the building blocks for AR work instructions for everybody. So thank you for all your hard work building these solutions. This is really the beginning. This is day one for AR instructions, so awesome. Okay, Q&A, questions, anybody?
Hi, guys, and thanks for a great panel. Carl Hutter from ClickBond. We're in the aerospace assembly hardware and solutions space and looking at how to bring XR to life to solve those challenges. So Erika, close to your heart. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, how is everybody starting to tackle the business of the engineering change process? So a human process that has to be supported with technology. So as you look at engineering design releases, whether that's around the textual description of a work instruction, ranging all the way down to a shift in the underlying CAD geometry in maybe a mixed reality scenario, how are you starting to tackle that process, which I think is more challenging from a human process, whiteboard marker, that's tough enough. Now we've got to link in the technology piece. So I'm just curious as to how people are starting to eat that elephant.
Thanks for the question, Carl, and thanks for your ongoing commitment to spatial computing over at ClickBond.
So you're basically referring to, like, how to link it to changes in the underlying system, how you reflect that in XR and so on, like the whole synchronization. Yeah.
How do we not have to rebuild it again?
Exactly. That's honestly one of, I would say, probably the biggest challenge at scale, especially, right? If you do it, like, if you have a one-off or you have a one experience, right, easy, not a problem. But if you have then thousands or tens of thousands and you need to keep them in sync, it's really, really tricky. And that's what we've also found with this approach that we're kind of following, the very close integration, so keeping the source system as the ground truth and having automatic hooks into our system. That's kind of how we have seen great success with that. But it's very challenging. You have to really consider, and it's a bit different for each customer, right? Because their processes are a bit different. And sometimes there's certain hooks in the process where things change or should not change and things like that. So that's the tricky one. But we've really seen with a very, very tight closed loop integration. So really the ability to, in real time almost, okay, there's a change, we get notified, the change is reflected in our system, and basically ensuring that the user using our solution always has the latest information, right? Because that would be worst case if you operate on outdated data, maybe even collect data for a version that's not even in production anymore, and then it's a huge mess, right? So absolutely a super important problem, and again, our solution is really a very, very close and tight integration between the two systems.
If I could just comment on that, I had to think about this, obviously, when I was deploying, because I'm the only person at this point at my facility that can do those work instructions. And so I was thinking about what am I going to be doing when those highlight reviews come out every year, right? I think there's and I'm speaking from somebody who has a budget, somebody who can't just change my application as I please. But what we tried to do is keep the work instructions detailed, but not too detailed, if that makes sense. That way, we were able to integrate into other platforms through our XR solution, and then that way we could update one central point and link out to that one central point through our XR platform. And then those updates would obviously be made as they typically are through our regular process. But we tried to keep the work instructions themselves generic enough that we wouldn't have to update it every time there was some sort of change.
And I think for us, in the early years, it was all about like making sure that the end user experience was going to be as engaging and as solid as possible. And really, I think over the last year or so, a lot of our focus has also now gone to the other side of it, which is what's really important for the organization, which is the data, which is the underlying architecture that's going to integrate with the systems of record that our customers use, really understanding what those requirements are from a change management perspective, making integrations possible with MES systems, like Alex said off the start, but also integrating with PLM systems now. I mean, that's a big, big topic, right? And so we're just making sure that we try to understand what those requirements are. So we did an integration already, with one PLM system, and we're looking at others. But what does that mean exactly, I think is the key point. There's a whole bunch of directions you can go, so we're trying to gather that information and make sure that we're checking the most important boxes, at least off the start, with those integrations, so that we ensure that, if the main problem is, let's make sure the workers have the right instructions, how do we do that in a unified approach through that PLM system and through down to the work instructions themselves? So it's a long journey, but something we focused, the last couple of years pretty heavily on, and we'll continue to do so.
I'm glad we drifted towards PLM. Unfortunately, right here at the end, there's just so much to talk about. The PLM integration is huge. Essentially, people if somebody checked in a new part, if an engineer made a change, and then you had work instructions that were already out in the wild, how do you get the most recent part? This is a huge problem to solve, and everybody's working hard at it. So, we are at time right now. I want to thank everybody. Great job, my amazing panelists.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're halfway through AWE 24. I can't believe it. I'm having a great time and hope everybody enjoys the rest of the show. Thank you.